All right, so it's been a few months since I started this Invoicer app. I do plan to continue and finish it, so this is kind of a start to doing that here. First thing I did, of course, was I logged in to the panel. I could see a couple of things I don't really like here. As it is, we have the bar, we have the home tab up there. So these are the first things we're going to take care of getting rid of. Okay, and simple enough to do by, I'm going to go over here, close everything to the right, because we're going to finish this table, of course. We'll go to Resources, Views, and we're going to find our layout file. So app, common navbar -top is where that's located. And we're just going to make sure that if they want to see that bar, they have to be authorized. So we'll use a blade directive for that. And that one's going to be @auth. All right. We'll go down to nav. Probably come in, refactor this a little bit later as well. Because I could probably do it outside of this. Actually, you know what? Let's do it that way. While we're here, right? Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's go back out to our Layouts app. And we can see we have our breadcrumb as well. So we don't want our breadcrumbs to show up in there. Okay, so do a little bauth in there. Make our code look nice and clean, always very important. And then we'll do a little bauth in here as well. Okay. A little bit of spacing. Okay, now let's go back to our page. And you can see you're not authorized, so it's just gonna show us a login form, which is great. On there. So I'll log in with admin at admin.com, and we'll go secret. Okay, and so this is what we're left with here. One other thing I'm going to change here probably is, because I'm dealing with a much larger screen than say you normally would, probably, well maybe, I don't know, it's a 27-inch screen. A lot of people have 24-inch screens, or less, it depends what they choose to have it work. But what we can do is in our layout here, instead of container-fluid, we'll just go container in here. Okay. And then that gives us some nicer spacing. Looks a little better with the what do you call this? With the breadcrumbs as well. So, okay. So that's that. So otherwise, we're logged in now. Now where we did leave off was in the process of building out, say, an invoicing application. We're going to want to be able to do things like create a customer. So that's what we're going to do here. Company details. We'll call this customer. So let's add that to our navigation. First of all, just to get an idea as to the UI, UX aspect of all of this. So we'll go down to Resources, Views. In our navbar top. And then in here, we should be linking out to admin. Okay. Because this will always be for admin, we will put it in there. Let's put it... actually, no. Should be in here. So what we could do is we'll just copy what we have down here. That'll probably be the quickest way to deal with this. And then let's delete. We're always going to have a dashboard. Typically, we're going to have a dashboard anyways for any one of these views, but we'll call this one customers. Okay. And then we'll say create a customer. Okay. Now, what we'll do is we'll finish off our migration here. So create company details table. And we'll have a user ID. I'm just trying to think here. Unsigned integer user ID. Let's go back to our users table. I'm still getting my bearings a bit here, so because I think the idea was we would create something where they kind of control it, right? They have their company details. They can log in. They have an owner of that particular company as well. So, but you know what we'll do for now? Actually, we'll delete this table. We're not going to use that. We'll create a customers table in here instead, and then we'll assign it to a particular user that it belongs to for the time being. So make model. So I always start with a model, and then I create a migration with the model. So we'll say models, and we'll call this one customer, and M to create the migration. Okay. We can see we can pull that up there. I use Control P a lot just to navigate my files and then kind of start giving the file name. So we'll say table. We will give this company a name. Name's going to be required no matter what. Name probably needs an address, and because sometimes they have more than one line for the address, or they have more than one address, that's what we'll do there. Okay. And we'll call this one address 2, and we'll make this one nullable. Shift Alt down in VS Code will copy the line, so that's what I'm going to do now. And we'll say city, Shift Alt down. We'll say, I'm in Canada myself, so we'll say province. Well, you can change that to state or whatever you want. And then for now, we can say country. I deal with multiple, I have customers all over the world, so province will mean state, sometimes state will mean province, whatever the case might be. Province or state. Okay. Let's give some contact information here as well. Just some basic contact information. So we'll say email. We'll say phone 1, phone 2. What else should we say? Not going to put fax in there. Well, we could put fax. Why not? People still do have fax machines. So email, phone, fax, and then we'll just say contact _ person. And then this is kind of like the main person that we're actually going to contact. And then let's, just for the future, we're going to put some options for some Json settings. Okay. And we'll say so I'll give you some examples of some settings we might want to put in here. Like maybe if we're dealing with, maybe if we only have a few customers, then we can color code it by the particular customer as a quick and easy way for us to reference who they are. But it basically, putting settings in here allows us to be flexible on the data that we attribute to it, but not critical data, right? Like not data that we would use to sort to find a customer. Like, we might say, sort by customers who have invoices for say logo design or something. So you wouldn't, that's the kind of data that you would need to associate with each other in terms of invoices. So we're not going to put that kind of data in there. You put that kind of data with a separate table, and I mean that's kind of the SQL structure, right? And the relational database structure of SQL databases. So, okay, so we have our customers in here. We're going to migrate this one, and I'm going to find my customer model, okay? And we're just going to go protected, guarded, and we're going to equal none. An example of how models work, if you're not aware, there's lots of things you can do. The user model is a great example of it. Fillable, so these are the items that can be entered into from, say, a given form. So we might have to adjust this if we have multiple users in here. Hidden, password, remember token. So what's going to happen basically is if somebody tries to pull the data, it won't pull this information in a visual way. I do believe you can still access all this information via Tinker, Artisan Tinker. And then casts, there's a whole bunch of options that you can put within a model. This one here, email verified at. If I was to print out email verified at, it's going to cast it as date time in there. So that's basically how it would display it. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. But for now, we're going to put protected, guarded. This is going to allow us to add things to our model in here. So let's go ahead and let's get a look at our structure here for resources. So we'll go views, we'll go admin invoicing. Let's add a folder, and then we'll say customers. And typically within this directory, I'm going to do things like add, your basic CRUD operations. So your create, the dashboard would point to like index.blade.php. What else do we have in here? New file. We would want to show a particular customer. Okay. And that's kind of the basic structure of anything I would do in here. And then as I break out my components, often what I'm doing is things like putting, for includes, for partials, things like that. So maybe a menu gets particularly overly complicated and it makes my view look too big. Then we can of course put add include there. So, all right. So we'll go to put the admin template down here. Okay, so admin, we created that in the last video for the actual template. We played around with our options, things like that in there. So it basically populates our breadcrumbs, for example, and then just some basic content. So in here we can go create a customer. And we don't really need a small class in here to create the text muted on the side. If we do things like show, it might say customer, and then in the small I might have customer information here. So navbar-nav. Okay, so let's hook this up into our navigation now. So let's go down to our routes file, web, admin. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so let's go route, create some prefixing here, and we'll say customers. Okay, put that in the group. We'll say base_path. And we'll kind of copy a lot of what's up at the top there. So route/web/admin. And then here we're going to say customers.php. Okay. That's going to route, so we have to create that folder or that file. Okay. Now in here, some things I like to do are kind of label how this goes. So let's say with the prefix, so our URL, right? This will be prefixed as admin / customers. Okay. Namespace is going to be like admin / customers, and then name is going to be. And now this is a quick and easy reference. I do this with all my routing files. It's important. So in here we're going to say create. I just do a /. You don't have to do a /, but. And then in here I'm going to call this the customers controller, and then we'll say at create. Now we could have created a resource controller, but not really too keen on that. Typically, if you keep all your method names pretty clear as to what it is, and I always default to the side of make the method names descriptive, and if that means being longer, that's fine. I mean, with auto completion that you have in virtually every code editor, it's going to auto-populate or help you finish the name, even if you're bringing in a method from a class that you're referencing, within the controller. So, okay, so we need to create a controller. So we'll say PHP artisan make controller. We'll say admin / customers / controller. This is what a resource controller looks like. Okay, so you can see in here. So we could do this for everyone. In this case, I think I will do it down here because customers are going to be pretty straightforward as to how things are created. So in here, we're just going to return the view. And the view is going to be, if we remember, invoicing customers create. No. Okay, there we go. So now it should be basically customer folder. Should be under its own. Before I had built it under invoicing. My bad. Sorry. And so we'll say admin.customers.create. And now we'll go back to our navigation. And not navigation desktop, but the admin navigation. And we're going to put a route in here now. And the route is going to be admin.customers.create. Pretty straightforward there. Okay, let's see how this looks now. Oh, you know what? Haha. We're going to have to go back to container-fluid. Okay, now from within our template, we can do .container. Uh-oh. Let's just make sure this is all lined up correctly. You know that line? Okay. Okay, now let's come back out here. Uh-oh, what is going on? What is going on? Did we not save it? Huh. Comment, number on top. So if you don't know what I'm doing now, I'm just trying to find out why the heck that's not. Yeah, container-fluid. Okay, container-fluid, that should work for us. Content. Did I do something wrong? That is so weird. It's so weird why it's not actually folding back up. Let's see here. I'm just going to make sure that my, cache is clear. Hey, look at that. Either way, that works in there. Okay, let's go back. We got some options up there. I'm not liking how this is going. Down dash toggle. Container at yield breadcrumbs in there. Okay, let's go to navbar dash top. It's probably... Okay, let's see what that does for us. There we go. All is right in the world, except for the fact... Let's see how this is divided up. Nav item, nav item. Authorized users that are logged in. Nav bar, margin left auto, margin right auto. Oh. That's not doing anything for us. What is going on? Let's see. Admin nav bar. Wow, funny games. Bootstrap is playing games with us today. So now that looks fine. Again, invoicing. But as soon as I add that, so it makes me kind of wonder if maybe the issue here. Just in case I have to go back to it if this isn't really the solution. Okay, so same deal. That is really weird. That is really weird. Okay, margin left auto. nav item, nav item. Drop down. This is always going to be there to log out. Nav dash item drop down. Let's see if this kind of follows suit with what we got up here. Nav link, drop down toggle. Right side of navbar collapse. Center logged in. Nav dash items drop down. Okay, I'm gonna take this offline here. I'll be back. Okay, so silly me, I figured out. You're gonna go back to your admin portion of the nav bar in here, and what we will do is I'm gonna cut this out. Sometimes it's better just to copy right from the documentation, because then you don't forget anything. And what I need to do is an li with nav dash item for class and drop down. And then I'll paste all of that in there, and then let's see what that gives us. What does that give us? Yes, solves a problem. Woohoo! Alright. Customers, create a customer, brought over to this board right here. Probably don't need options on this one. So let's go back to create. Float dash right, column dash 2. We can copy that out. Actually, you know what? I'm comfortable just getting rid of it. Yes, I am. And we'll just call this one column in here. Okay, now below our horizontal rule, we're going to want to start building out our form. So we'll do this, and then we'll give this a method of post. We'll add our token. Don't need to add a B method in there or anything. And how much room are we dealing with on here? Okay. We'll test this out on a smaller screen as well. We'll see what it looks like. But for now, we could probably say, we'll say .form dash group, and then we'll put a row in there, and then we'll say label dot column dash md dash say md dash 3. See how 3 looks in there. And then we'll say customer name, and then input dot form dash control name equals name in here. Oh, and then we have to add dot column dash md dash 9. Okay. And let's take a look back at our table so we know all of it. Okay, so name, so then we'll say address 1. Oopsie daisy. Address 1. I always give it, well, usually I give it, depends on how sensitive the information is, but very often I will give it a name that basically matches the one in the database so that it's easier to upload all that information, right? Dash MD dash 3. And then in there, we're going to go address 2 dash 9. Control, we're going to go name. Oopsie daisy. address 2. Three. Let's look back on this. We'll say city -md-9, and we'll put an input in there. And the name of that one is going to be city. Right on. .row label .column -md-3. City, province, country. Province. So, I mean, there's some things you might want to do in here, which we'll probably come back and do once I get the list, but you'll want to pre-populate, say, provinces, cities, countries. There's lots of things that we can come back and do that we can do from within Laravel, or like the Laravel structure. We can use some Ajax, things like that, to add information, like giving a drop-down list of provinces within a country, cities within a province, list of countries, so on and so forth. So, which is probably something that I would do before it actually goes live. But for now, we need to do some testing, get our general functionality up and running, and then we'll go back. We'll do a lot of those little things afterwards. -3, and then country. Name in here. Country. Let's take a look at how that actually looks first of all, because yeah, no, that looks good. Alright, so let's go email. And we'll say column -md-9. And we'll input dot. And we'll put the type as email. Email there. .row, let's say label.column -md-3. And then from email we need phone 1. And also column -md-9. Input form -control. _1. Oops. -group .row .column -md-3. And we'll save phone 2 -md-9. And we'll say input dot form -control. No, sorry. Yes. And we'll say name is going to equal phone _2 dot form -group .row .column -md-3. And let's see what else we have here. Okay, we got fax -md-9 input dot form dash control. We'll say name equals fax. All right, form dash group dot row md-3. A lot of repetitive things going on here. And we'll say contact person. So I put this in here just because, sometimes you might work for an individual. I mean, in this industry, like if you're using it for this industry, then likely not. You're going to be working for businesses who have a contact person. But if you use it for something else, then, put the contact person, and you could also use the business name as the customer. Sorry, the contact person as the customer name. Basically whatever you want to do there, right? So name equals contact underscore person. And put a button in here with a class of primary, so it's nice and blue. And we'll just say save. Now, let's go back to, oops. Okay, so that's what that looks like. I think as a point of order, I'm going to put the button always on the right-hand side. Yeah, okay. So in here now we can enter in all this information we want to. Let's create a route. And it'll be admin.customers.store. And admin.customers.store. So now if we go back to our resource controller under store, we can see it's already bringing in the request. So first thing we're going to do here is request-validate. The only thing I'm going to require right now is just the name of the individual customer. Required, and yeah, we'll just say required for now. So if it passes validation in there, then we're all good. If it doesn't, it's going to go back and throw an error basically in that panel. What else? What else do we have in here to do? Validate. Okay. Well, let's, first of all, we'll just make sure all the data is coming through, I suppose. We'll request all. Now I have a formatter automatically. Well, I think Chrome automatically formats it for you. But we have to go, we've got to create the route for this, first of all. So routes web admin, no, not that one, sorry. Routes web customers. There we go. Okay. And we're going to create a post route. This will be store. Add store, so pretty straightforward. Okay, let's refresh this. Not put anything in it. You can see it redirects us back to this page. So first issue we're dealing with here is we need some form of notifications placed in here. I'm not going to go too deep into a form by form for the notifications, but what I would say is, how do we want to do this? We can include it within the container just above here. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. So if there's an error, I want it to show up between our breadcrumbs and the create a customer card. Okay. So that's empty.3, and then I'm just going to go b include, and we're going to create some components in here. Components, and then components. What else do we need? So we got components in here. We're going to say alerts, and I'm going to create basically a pack. So now, let's see here. We want views, resources, views. Let's create a folder called components, alerts, alerts, .php. Okay, so let's go pick up some in there. Okay, so we're going to want to go over to Bootstrap. And let's see here. Okay, let's go. Go to alerts. You're going to want all the dismissible alert. So that's down here. Oops. We're going to want to create certain conditionals. So, for example, basically if there is an error and then we want to display that particular error message, right? So we'll do that. So we can put warning or we can put danger. This is going to basically state the color of it. Oops. Okay, so we're going to say basically if sign errors dash any, which will return a true or false statement essentially. Okay, and so if we have errors in here, we'll alert danger, and then we'll say for each and then we'll say $error. Now what we can do is we'll create an unordered list. Okay, and then we'll cycle through it with a for each statement. $error. Okay. Now, we're going to add on to this in the future. The reason I'm going to leave it the way it is right now, okay, there you go. The name field is required. Okay. We could make this prettier in some way if we wanted to, right? Like maybe instead of the name field is required, yeah, whatever the case might be. One other thing we're going to add to this is we need to make sure that basically if it returns, we want to keep the information that's in there. So Laravel has a nice little function which gets the old value. Name. I'll show you how this one works. And then we'll say address one. Okay, so we know it requires to have a name. We're not going to put that in here, but we'll put a little something in the address, like 45 Springfield Court. Okay, so you see it says the name field is required. Let's dismiss this. We'll say this once more. Okay, name field is required, and we can see we don't lose the data in here. If we didn't have this method, then basically when I click save, it goes back to nothing. So So this is actually, I would say this is pretty important in here. At this juncture in time, we'll do this. Okay, address 2. We'll say city. We'll say province. We'll say country. Email. Phone 1. Phone 2. Say fax. Contact person. Okay, so let's enter in some things in here. So 45 Springfield Court. We'll say this is in Leduc. We'll say this is in the province of Alberta within Canada. We'll say Tyson at customer.com. We'll set up a phone formatter here at some point. Fax. And then we'll say Tyson. Now let's save. Okay, so, oh, okay. Well, that's no good. So that's the importance of testing, right? Make sure that that's actually there. Okay. Now, let's refresh this. Let's do this again. Okay, let's put this in all 3 for now. Name fields required. Okay, so it's retaining all of it. Okay. Tyson London in there, and we're going to save that. Perfect. Okay, so now that we submitted it and it passed all the validation, which is great, this is what we're left with. This is the CSRF token that's required for submitting forms of type, post, put, delete, so on and so forth. So that's why we put BCSRF in there. Okay, and then, yeah, it's basically spitting out the information. It doesn't appear to me that there's any spelling errors, so adding this to our model should be really easy. We can do this by, let's go to Customers Controller, and we will say, we'll bring in the namespace, so customer in there. If you go back up to the top, pretty sure I showed you this in the last one, but basically references the app model's customer. And there's a plugin. I get asked this all the time. What plugin are you using? Just look for PHP namespace resolver in here. Okay, and that's the one I use, Mehdi Hassan. The one that one built. It works perfect. You can right click, you go import class, or maybe if you're done the whole controller, then you go Control Alt A or import all classes, and it will find the relevant classes. And if there's name duplications, like maybe there's more than one class with the same name, then it'll allow you to specify which one it is on there. So in here, we don't have many classes, so it's not a problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this. The one other thing I am going to add in here is for email, I do want it to be unique. For the customers table. Okay. Now, should automatically look for emailing customers. If it's a different name coming in, then you would specify what column it basically has to look at. Oh, actually, sorry. And then in here, this is really easy. We'll just dump the request as all. You also have the option of going request only and then specifying which ones you want to put in there. Okay. And you know what? Let's add email as a required field. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to return customer. Actually, we're going to redirect. Sorry, we'll go route, and we'll say admin dot customers dot dashboard with success. How do we want to do that? So we'll say you've successfully added a customer. Okay. Now we do need to create this route. So let's go back to our customers route. I'm going to put it up here at the top. It's going to be it's going to be a / in this case, but customers controller at index, and then the name we give it is going to be dashboard. Okay. What else do we need to do in here? Okay, so that should work. And then we'll go to customers controller. We'll say, I don't want to get too far into this. View. We need to pull in all the customers basically. So I'm going to go customers. Wow. We've already brought it in to the namespace, so we'll bring in all. If we build this out to be multi-tenancy, then we're going to want to assign just customers with that particular, that's assigned to that particular user to look at. Let's go to index for that. We can use compact in here, and then we'll say customers. Oops. Okay. Now we'll go to index. Okay, so one of the things I want to add into, I'm going to go back to VS Code here, code snippets. And okay, so I'm just going to look at one of our previous ones, so create, because we've got to make some modifications to this, right? One, we need to put container class at the beginning. So let's do that. So that's tabbed. We're going to do this without a tab, right? Okay. And then we need to end that. I think, okay, so that was one of our issues. So that's one thing, I don't know if you noticed earlier, caused some confusion. End div. Okay. Now the other thing we want to add in here is our include. So we'll say at include components dot alerts dot pack. Okay. Now let's go to index and we'll go to admin. Okay, and you can see it added all those things in there. So now we have our alerts.pack component in there. And let's go to alerts.pack down here. And I just want to make sure that we always have some spacing at the top of that between those things. Okay, now we want to go with, okay. I'm going to go with the dismissible alert. I'm going to actually, sorry, let's do this. First of all, we want to go with bif, and we're going to check if a session variable is available, and that session variable is going to be success. And then we'll say alert dismissible. We'll change this one here over to success, and then we will say let's print out the message here, okay? Sorry, not session, success. Okay, so now if success, if that flashed session variable, so this is just a one-time thing. Once it displays, it'll be deleted. It'll display the success one within alerts.pack, okay? And then let's go empty-3 on here as well. Now, in here we're going to say customers dashboard. So we're doing normally, especially when teaching, I like to kind of do things a little component at a time, but I want to get a few of these things working so that once we actually submit this and store it in the database, we get redirected back to the dashboard, and then we can display that, hey, it was actually created. Realistically, what it should do is actually redirect to the show route for that particular customer. So we'll leave this up there. That's fine. Not going to mess around with that. And what I will do though is we'll say before each customers. Oops. As customer. Then what we'll do is let's create a table first. So we'll say table.table.table-hover.table-borderless. Yeah, and then I'm happy with that. So, and then we need to put what we're basically going to store. For now, I'm just going to store basically the name, and then we'll store some actions in there, and then we need to do tbody. Okay, and then from in there, we're going to use the for each. Okay, and then we'll say tr td, and we'll grab name from that object, and then we'll say, and let's add a couple of buttons in there. btn dash primary. Okay. I don't think, actually, you know what? We're going to do edit. And we'll give it that class in there. Okay. So we'll see how good we did. Hopefully, let's get rid of this because don't really need to visit that for a while. Customers controller. So what's happening here is we validate the request, we store the customer, and then we redirect with a session variable called success, and then that message will be you have successfully added a customer. That's going to take us through the route to back to our index page, where we're going to grab all the customers, and the flash data will show up at the top there as well. So let's cross our fingers. Let's hope that we did everything right. And we did. Perfect. We're there. So I might want to, I'll probably change these out for actual symbols and whatnot. But here we can see you've successfully added a customer. So now the customer appears. So with that, I'm going to leave it there. In the next video, I will go over things like, how do we set it up to edit, to show it, and then we're going to do things probably like creating invoices, and then we'll process payments, and at the very least, we'll look at Stripe as the way we want to process those payments on there. So, all right, thanks.